How do you know if what you hear and see is the truth, especially in these confusing times? So many opinions. How can the words of Jesus help you tell the difference? Jesus said, "Watch out for false teaching." Good morning, and welcome to 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about easy to remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest, the Jesus way. Today's Jesus said in the weekday Bible plan at bible.today.church is Matthew 16:6 and then 11 and 12. But today we're going to read that whole section from verse 6 to verse 12. And we'll be reading today from the NET translation. And just to set some context here, the Pharisees had asked Jesus to show them a sign from heaven, a sign of Jonah. And then Jesus had gone across the sea, Jesus said the only sign that they would get is the sign of Jonah. And then Jesus had gone across the Sea of Galilee in a boat, and the disciples got there later, and they realized that they had forgotten bread. And so Jesus said in verse 6 of Matthew 16, "Watch out." Jesus said to them, "Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." So they began to discuss among themselves, saying, "It is because we brought no bread." When Jesus heard this, he said, "You who have such little faith, why are you arguing among yourselves about having no bread? Do you still not understand? Don't you remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000, or how many baskets you took up, or the 7 loaves for the 4,000, and how many baskets you took up?" Now, before we go on to verse 11, Jesus is reminding them of all the miracles where God had miraculously provided bread, but they were worried that they had messed something up. Verse 11, "How could you not understand that I was not speaking to you about bread? But beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." Then they understand that he had not told them to be on guard against the yeast in bread, but against the teachings of the Pharisees and Sadducees. You see, Jesus was making the point here that false teaching is like yeast. And yeast changes what it's exposed to. It causes growth and expansion. And the word used here for teaching is the word doctrine. In the Greek, it's didache. It's teaching that leads to action. There's a document from the first century of teachings that is called the didache, and it's not a philosophical document or what we would call doctrine, which says this is exactly how we believe and these are the words that we use, but it's a how-to manual. And that's what the teaching is supposed to be. And Jesus says, stay away from the doctrine of the Pharisees. In other words, Jesus said to listen to what the Pharisees said because they did understand the law, but don't do what they did. Beware of false teaching that leads to wrong action or no action. So how do we tell the difference? There's so much teaching out there today. A lot of good words, correct information, a lot of memes that go around that have a little bit of truth, but they're incomplete because there's very little accountability to actually change. If you look at the information that's out there, very little is actually based on doing what Jesus said. It's information and philosophically based, not obedience based. And many of the topics of popular books and things are more about self-help, being successful, being a good leader, or understanding the right theology. But it's not about words or belief that Jesus was warning against. It's about false teaching that doesn't really change us. And we need that kind of change because Jesus said in Matthew 24, it's going to get rough. He said, then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You'll be hated all over the world because you are my followers. And many will turn away from me and betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and will deceive many people. Sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. So what is false teaching? Well, it's anything that teaches that there's another way into the kingdom other than repentance, change, and dying to yourself and your own desire. Jesus never said, follow me, it's more fun. Follow me and be successful. Follow me and accomplish the American dream. Jesus said, take up your cross daily and follow me. That's real happiness. That's the real blessing. That's where John 10:10 abundant life really is. The yeast of false teaching will quickly expand and increase unless we guard against it. And it's by fruit that we discover where the real truth is. Jesus said, watch out for false teaching. Make sure that what you're following, what you're listening to, what you're obeying sounds and looks like what Jesus did and said. Watch out for false teaching. That's what Jesus said. How can you put that into action today? Thank you so much for listening. If this is meaningful to you, it does mean a lot to me when you like it, share it, and comment. Not because it builds me up, but it just spreads the good news and helps others experience Jesus. I really appreciate you. I hope that you have an amazing day, and I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest, the Jesus way. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.